on. It is very much on. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2023 season has started. It's a little more than a week to the draft. Players are back for OTAs, assistant coaches popping their heads up like a little croak-eye, saying things like, we're working hard. Every year is different. We had access yesterday, and the funny thing is, every year is different around this team. It's fascinating. This one is pivotal. The direction of the franchise is dependent, really dependent on what happens the next 10 months. No joke. Here's the game plan for today's program, turning the page, putting 2022 in the rearview mirror. The Patriots were big on that during our access yesterday. Growing concerns. Matt Groh, Director of Player Personnel, spent some time with us yesterday in the draft room. We talked to Thomas Dimitrov, former Patriots and Atlanta Falcons executive, about all the things the Patriots might be talking about in their draft room, and finally polls and comments. But first, ladies and gentlemen, it's my slant. What's up? And we're 8 days away from the Patriots laying the foundation for the rest of this decade. 6 picks in the top 135, their highest pick since 2008. It's a roster, that's actually better than people seem to understand. This is not a bad team. But the underachieving, undisciplined, situationally dumb, penalty-plagued team of 2022 that led the league in snark and backroom backbiting, it's got work to do. And Bill O'Brien alluded to that on Tuesday. Bill!
The big thing for us right now is everybody starting with a clean slate. I think that every year is different. I think this year is no different than any other year relative to each year in the NFL is different, right? So what you did in the past, or whether it's a player or a coach or anybody in the organization, really has no bearing on what happens moving forward.
Can a slate really be clean? No dust, no remnants, no grudges, no what's in it for me? Everybody shelving their own self-interest? We'll see. For a long time, being part of Bill Belichick's Patriots was its own reward. You competed every year for championships. You worked with the greatest coach, the greatest quarterback, the best owner. You were part of the most successful franchise of this century. They couldn't live at that altitude forever. The moving on period eventually had to come. Some left because Bill decided, others because they wanted to get while the getting was good. But mediocrity has followed, and so, unfortunately, has the finger pointing. And it's continued this offseason. If the Patriots are going to get back to good, they can't just pay lip service to this blank slate stuff. This incestuous Machiavellian organization where perceived loyalty has become more important than how well you do your job, that has to end. They have to start walking it like they talk it, starting right now. Speaking of right now, let's bring in the great Phil Perry. Senator, how are you?
Doing great. Big week coming up before the draft, but we have all kinds of other stuff to talk about.
We have a blank slate edict handed down by Bill O'Brien, which I'm sure came from higher levels. Is a blank slate possible?
I think so, Tom, but I think you have to be willing to embrace that which we have long associated with the Patriots in terms of philosophy, right? Stoicism. You and I have talked about this in years past. You've podcasted with Ryan Holiday, who is the great modern day stoic writer, and the Patriots and Bill Belichick specifically have been fans of that approach, right? The obstacle is the way. Let's use things that happen to us, the negative, perceived negative things that happen to us, and allow them to propel us forward in a positive direction. Ego is the enemy. These are things that we have associated with, thoughts that we've associated with the Patriots. I think you need to see them exercised and exercised openly to be able to move on and have that clean slate that you're talking about.
That's the essence of this team. I mean, as you've seen so many teams, players, individuals, coaches realize the heights, you come to expect it. And there's no shortcutting it. This, in very many ways, to me, Phil, has to have the same mentality the 2002 Patriots had 21 seasons ago, which was after a Super Bowl, they come back, they underachieve, I should say 20 years ago, the 2003 Patriots have something to prove and show that they're legitimate. This is a rebuilding year, in some ways, rebuilding, but you can get back to where you were at the end of 2021 in short order. Meanwhile, here's Matt Groh. We had access to the Patriots Director of Player Personnel yesterday.
You're hoping there at 14 you can get a pretty good player, and I'd say throughout the first round, there's an old philosophy. You're taking a player in the first round, you hoping that player is going to come in and make an impact for you.
All right, let's take a look around some of the NFL's cognoscenti And who they have marked to the Patriots in round 1 and number 14. You have an outstanding corner. You have a tackle. You got another tackle. You have a surprise in Bijan Robinson. You have a double surprise in quarterback Anthony Richardson. And they got a long, tall corner in Joey Porter Jr. Phil, when you look at those names, there is a wide range of positions the Patriots could go to. And we could even go to a couple more and throw in Zay Flowers if we wanted.
We could, and I go back to what Matt Groh just said right there, where he's talking about in the first round, you want to get a player who's going to make an impact for you. I will translate there, Tom, and say, you better fill a position of need with a really good player in the first round, especially where they're picking at 14 overall, obviously higher than we're used to seeing them pick. So to see all those corners there and see a couple tackles there, to me, Tom, those are two of their greatest needs. Those are two positions where at tackle, hard to find guys outside the first round. And this year at corner, you're going to find a player at 14. There are some elite talents available in the top half of the draft.
It's funny, you pound the table for corner, offensive tackle, and edge players as being the highest premium players out there. And it looks like, even though we're not getting into it as much, and most of the draft experts aren't mocking edge guys to the Patriots, Phil, that could be a place as well that the Patriots could profit.
It could be, because to me, Tom, it gets to how rare is it to find these physical specimens who can actually play that position and play it at a high level. Same conversation with tackles. We're talking about the guys that the tackles have to block now. These edge rushers, guys like Myles Murphy out of Clemson or Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. These guys are really rare physical specimens in terms of height, weight, and speed. So even though it might not be at the necessarily very top of your list of needs, those are guys that if you want them, you usually got to get them in the first round.
All right, we made this point before. This is from the stands. There are so many places that the Patriots can go. One of them is down. A trade down from 14 by the Patriots will be very much in play next Thursday. Your reaction as a fan would be, cool, I'm all about value. Okay, all right, just stay in the first. God, just pick at 14, Bill. It's a pretty easy there, Elmer Fudd. It's a pretty wide range. All right, we got some comments. First up, Michael, need to get as many high-quality day one starters as possible. Can't afford more of these developmental players. That's a lot to ask sometimes. Chewing bum with Lloyd Brown. Sometimes I think we need to maybe edit some of these names. If Jackson Smith and Jigba is there at 14, take him. Otherwise, make the trade. No difference between 14 and 24. Chewing bum makes a point. Next up, Tony. See, now that's simple. There's a good reason to stay at 14. As many as 4 quarterbacks picked on the top 10, more quarterbacks chosen. Push it down, push it down, push it down. Why move away from that? I agree, Tone. And then, of course, Sean Norton. I think we're all used to trading back anyway, so that makes sense. Just please stay in the first. I'm with you, man. I hate sitting here on a Thursday and just watching and waiting and finding that I'm not going to have anything to write about. Coming up next, former Patriots executive, former Atlanta Falcons executive, longtime friend of the program, Thomas Dimitrov, will join us to talk about draft strategy in the first round and what the Patriots might be up to. Growth Potential, brought to you by Dr. Matthew Lepresti. Look younger, feel younger, get your hair back with Leonard Hair Transplant Associates. The Patriots can grow their roster. Check this out. 14th pick, 46th pick, third round. They have the 76th, 107, 117, 135. You can get fat on those players right there. Thomas Dimitrov tells us what his draft strategy might be if he was working for the Patriots still. One, hey, what's the best way, Thomas, to describe the Patriots draft room as you recall it?
Look, I've been in different draft rooms all over the country, different times. When I was in Atlanta, we had 45 or 50 people in there. Arthur Blank had, we had designees and we had like sort of part-time owners or partial owners. We had people everywhere. We had our pro staff there, college staff. We had coaches sifting through there. Absolutely opposite end of the spectrum with the Patriots, right? Very, very detailed. You can imagine when Scott Pioli was back there with Bill. I mean, we were so compartmentalized. You had 5, 6, or 7 people in there at the very most, really, really quiet, really focused. There weren't a whole bunch of people walking around with, ding dongs in their hands and special snacks and everything.
The snack treat, right?
It was not that. They might have had snacks, believe me, but it was very, very focused and very serious.
We are looking at a New England Patriots team right now that has 6 picks in the top 135. They have 11 draft picks overall. Now, if you look at their roster, they have about 25 guys who are still on their rookie or who are under contract, but not on their rookie contracts into next year. So it's not a huge mass. You know, some guys like Mac Jones are still under contract. Anyway, I'm going too far afield. The upshot of it is we are used to the Patriots trading down. This could be an opportunity for them to move up because of the number of the picks that they have in the top 135.
It could be a move up. I mean, I always say it could be a move up, could be a move down. Look, I think there's some really cool players, really, significant.
No, I like the cool players aspect.
You know what I'm saying?
They do things.
When I think about cool players, I think about ones that are going to significantly contribute out the gate. They have a personality about them. They're going to help that team have personality. And I know it's not about personality, but personality sometimes brings a presence. It brings the idea of aggressiveness. It brings the idea of winning. It brings the idea of moving away from sort of the gray element to the sort of colorful enough element. And I am not talking about jackasses popping off about things at all. I'm talking about guys that are going to add to the team.
How many coaches and GMs are entering next week seeing the mortality flash before their eyes? Because there's probably only 8 to 10 who are like, yeah, we're good. We either just got hired or we're coming off a great year. We're free and easy. I mean, there's got to be a lot of guys who are like up at night saying this could be it. All of it could go away. I mean, it's pressure packed.
Yeah, no, you've hit the nail on the head on that as well. I think it could be upward beyond 55, 60. I mean, I just think everyone goes into this team building time and they're just, maybe one or the ones who won the Super Bowl. I've always said that's the only one that has no heat on their seat at all. And I say that that's the best GM, the best head coach in the world at that point. But as soon as we start training and play, getting ready for the season, that falls by the wayside. It's very complicated. And I will tell you, as a team builder in this stage, you're thinking about picking for the team, right? Ultimately, you don't care what people say around you. Ostensibly, you don't care. Don't buy that either. People are human, right? They want to make sure that they come out of day 1, 2, and 3, that their owner is up behind them. They want to know that in their building that the coaches are behind them. There's not a whole bunch of water cooler talk like, are you kidding me? But you are picking to make sure that you are doing the right thing. And ultimately, it's for the organization. And, you want to market your organization. The last thing you want is to be the dumbass, I hope I can say that, who makes stupid moves, right? Makes stupid moves.
Don't be the dumbass, Phil. It's really easy. Just don't be the dumbass.
The thumbs up is really what got me laughing there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we had Matt Groh yesterday, Patriots Director of Player Personnel, talking about local hero Zay Flowers from Boston College.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the offense, you got to be able to move these guys around, especially, a player like Zay that can do a lot of things. So it's easy to pigeonhole these guys. Okay, well, he's a big guy. Well, there's been some big guys that have been slot receivers. You look at a guy like Brandon Marshall. He made his living inside and did a really good job. So, I think there's a certain type that certainly a lot of the fans have seen around here with those smaller guys getting in and out of their breaks, being inside. But, I think it was 4.42 maybe Zay ran at the combine. So talking about a pretty fast guy here, too, who can also stretch the field vertically from the outside.
What did we learn about wide receivers from Matt yesterday?
Well, Zay Flowers in particular, he's a slot receiver plus. I think he's going to be in the slot quite a bit at the next level, whether he's here or somewhere else, Tom. But he can get vertical, and this draft is loaded with those guys, the diminutive types that have great speed. I think it's just a question of how early are you willing to invest in someone like your guy, Tom, out of Houston, Tank Dell, who is sniffing 170 pounds. He's smaller even than Zay Flowers, but these guys are so dynamic, and if you can use them creatively, you could have a real playmaker on your hands.
We got more from Matt Groh talking wideouts and talking about exactly what you're referring to, the ability to get some of these little fellas and maybe some of the bigger fellas later in the draft.
I think if you're looking for a guy, it's not just a first-round guy. There's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft, and there's a lot of good wide receivers in this league that weren't just first-round picks. So you can find these guys, throughout the draft. Obviously, if you're taking one in the first round, you better have some conviction about them.
Do you need a wide receiver on the first 2 days of the draft? That means either in round 1, 2, or 3, Phil.
I think you do. I think you need to get more dynamic, and if you wait any longer than that, I think you're playing with fire. Now, maybe on day 3 you could get somebody like Bryce Ford Wheaton out of West Virginia. Didn't have great quarterback play there, Tom, and so that suppresses some of his numbers. But this guy is 6'3", 225 pounds, and ran a 4.3 at the combine. Again, rare physical specimen. But I'd be looking second, third round to be able to find somebody that can give your offense a little bit of juice. There's plenty of guys in this draft that have that quality, and it sounds like Matt Groh is saying, listen, might not come on day 1, but just be patient.
All right. Now, meanwhile, we've talked in the past about Mac Jones and Bill O'Brien spending some time together at Alabama prior to Mac Jones entering the NFL draft. Bill O'Brien was asked about that yesterday. The Patriots' new offensive coordinator had this to say.
I think that the time in Alabama was when I first got hired. He was there getting ready for the draft, and I basically met him. He talked to me about the generalities of the offense, and that was about it. I think this time period here, starting yesterday, this is the time where you really get to know all the players.
All right, so I'm watching Boston Sports Tonight last night, and in watching it, that was deemed highly offensive and doing Bill's bidding by Bill O'Brien, casting aspersions on the fact that Mac even had anything to do at all with Bill O'Brien. In my estimation, we heard a lot over the last 2 years about this intimate relationship that Bill O'Brien and Mac Jones had, and Mac going as far as to teach Bill O'Brien the offense. To me, Bill O'Brien's answer is basically, look, we were there at the same time for a very brief period, and we talked a little bit about the offense, but by no means is 52-year-old Bill O'Brien being taught how to run offense by Mac Jones. I don't think this is casting aspersions on Mac Jones, and I don't think in any way Bill O'Brien on Wednesday spent time really rebuffing any ideas that he's going to be supportive of Mac Jones, which was pushed out there yesterday. But to me, this was Bill O'Brien saying, he wasn't teaching me the offense.
Right, and Tom, listen, I agree with you. I don't think he's casting aspersions here, but it was an opportunity for him to say something nice about Mac Jones. He didn't get much nice said about Mac Jones. And in the environment that we're in now, this is the kind of thing, these are the kinds of reactions that people will come up with. Well, it really seems like the team doesn't like Mac Jones very much. They're talking about maybe trading him, according to Mike Florio. Now the offensive coordinator is behind a microphone, and he can't say 3 words about his new starting quarterback. Like, that part of it, I do understand, and I don't necessarily put it on the consumers of the sound. I put it on the situation there, because we're all looking hard at this thing now, trying to find clues as to what's really happening.
Am I taking crazy pills? I mean, look, the guy's been here for 15 minutes. He's not going to go out there and Bill Belichick says we're turning the page to the next year and not talk about last year.
Tom, it's really easy. You know that. He could have said,
it is
listen,
really easy.
Mac's already here. He's working hard. He's rallied the guys. I've watched him on tape. A lot of good things there.
Yeah, one of the things he says is don't talk about anybody in specific. Talk about everybody in general. Everybody's rallying the guys.
Again, the environment.
Didn't need to. We are making a mountain out of a molehill. We have enough molehills. We have enough actual mountains out there that we don't need to make molehills.
All right.
No. Patriots Talk podcast. Quick fire. I'm off my game now. Check out the latest Patriots Talk podcast. I spend a ton of time with Thomas Dimitrov, and you get way more on his conversation with me about all the things that are going to go into the 2023 draft. You can scan that QR code on the screen, or you can find it on your favorite podcasting app. It's even on YouTube. It's presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for Quick Fire. It's presented by your local New England Honda dealers. That means we bring in Robbie Bucket Snyder. Hello, Roberto.
Hey, how's it going? First up, Jalen Hurts signed a very massive deal this week. What does that mean for Lamar Jackson? Possibly follow the leader, maybe, Tom?
It could, and it's really interesting if you look at how some of the numbers have been parsed, Phil Perry. Lamar's offer from Baltimore exceeds Jalen Hurts by just a little bit. To me, there's a framework there for Lamar Jackson to go ahead and join the Baltimore Ravens, even though he won't get the same deal that Deshaun Watson got. What do you think is a framework for Mac, for Herbert, for Lamar from this deal? I think it's a great domino to have fall to give you some security if you're a team.
And I think it favors the Ravens. I think the Ravens are thrilled that this deal got done because it provides them, like you said, a blueprint for Lamar, for his mom, for whoever's working with him right now going through this stuff to say this is a reasonable deal for a guy who's considered a top 10 quarterback in the league right now, who does a lot of the same things you do in terms of playing style, Lamar. Let's figure this out. And you can get the Deshaun Watson contract off the table. That's what Baltimore, I'm sure, is thrilled to try to do. Will Lamar allow it? We'll see.
What do we got?
All right, well, my voice went a little high at the end of that last one, so I'm going to talk nice and deep here. We got Jalen Carter. Phil, is he worth the risk?
I think in this draft, some team will decide that he is worth the risk inside the top 10. And I say in this draft because I don't think there's enough blue chip talent sprinkled in the top of this draft this year for a team to say, no, we can pass. No, we'll get guys just as good. It's just not this year, Tom. So I think he kind of, for a guy who's got a lot of questions, he timed it right in terms of entering the league when he's entering the league.
Right. And Jalen Carter, he's University of Georgia. He was involved in the offseason soon after the bowl game in an incident in which two individuals affiliated, one a player, one a staffer, were killed in a car accident, and there were questions as to whether or not there was a drag race involved. Jalen Carter and his campus denied that was what was going on, but they were on the road at the same time. So that has certainly created some, if real intrigue is the wrong word, a lot of questions as to what Jalen Carter was about. He didn't provide exactly the most coherent messaging initially. So Jalen Carter could be falling. He's a very good talent, but there's some stuff there too. What do we got?
Yeah, nothing clever there for me. Last one. 49ers are fielding calls on Trey Lance, so could he be trading places, Tom?
Look, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, when you look at the number of quarterbacks at the top of the draft in the last 5 or 6 years, it's jaw-dropping how quickly they can move around. To me, the Niners clearly making it obvious that they'll take some calls, Phil.
I just can't get over how botched this position has been for this particular franchise. From Jimmy Garoppolo, when you move on from him, to this pick, wild.
All right, we got plenty more draft stuff going into next week. Stay tuned for everything.